Forget everything you've ever read or heard about sports cars. What you're about to see is a complete original that puts the notion of a sports car in a different light and a whole new perspective.
Hey everybody, we've got such a fun video for you today because this is our new to us 1994 Nissan 300ZX convertible, and in this video we're going to show you why this is the most underappreciated classic you can buy, although underappreciated for a reason in some cases. Let's get right into it.
Because the Z32 generation of the 300ZX, especially the convertible, is an underappreciated classic, we got this 73,000 mile example that is really clean for $8,500.
So the 300ZX, this fourth generation car, was sold here in the US between 1990 and right around 1996, and then according to Motor Trend, they stopped selling this in 96 here in the States due to side impact regulation, but in Japan they kept selling it all the way up through 2000. Now the one you really want is a twin turbo coupe with the manual transmission. This is not that. So excuse me for wearing a slightly different shirt. I just got so excited about the 300ZX, I literally sweat through the first one. It was also like 105 out there, but check this out. So this is the Hagerty Price Valuation Guide, and Hagerty is a great resource for finding values on any sort of classic. And let's see what the values are doing on 300ZXs. So obviously at the top of the market is the turbo. A good one in good condition nowadays is gonna run you nearly $32,000. Now it's a pretty big jump when you go from the turbo down to the non-turbo. So you can see a good non-turbo in coupe form, it's going to run you $13,400. But then, crazy enough, the next most valuable is not the convertible, but rather the 2+2, the kind of awkward four-seater. In good condition, that's going to run you $12,300. And then at the very bottom of the ZX lineup is the convertible. That's going to run you $11,600 in good condition. So the convertibles are actually the least valuable of all the 300ZXs, even less valuable than the kind of weird looking 2+2s.
Like Tommy said, twin turbo manual hardtop, that's the car to have. But this 300ZX is literally none of those things. It's a convertible, it's automatic, and it's naturally aspirated. So this is the pretty much least desirable 300ZX that you can get. But funny enough, they only ever made 1,701 of these convertibles in the world. That's ever. So this is actually a very rare car that nobody wants. Under the hood of our 300ZX, we have what is called the VG30DE. And what that acronym or that name means, VG is V6, 30 is because it's a 3-liter, D is for dual overhead cam, E is for electronic fuel injection, and there was another version of this, the VG30DE TT. That's what came in the turbo. TT means twin turbo. This non-turbo model has 222 horsepower, 198 pound-feet of torque. And if you got the turbo, you got 300 horsepower, but we didn't get the turbo, so we're stuck with just over 200 horsepower as a factory rating. Lord knows how much it actually still makes today, but even when this was brand new, according to Motor Week, it did 0 to 60 at sea level in 7.8 seconds, which isn't super thrilling.
From a design standpoint, this is a really cool looking car. It was really cool looking when it launched in 1989, and it's even cooler looking today. It's just a beautiful piece of sheet metal. Now, the design was done by two gentlemen, Mr. Sono and Mr. Yamashita, and it was apparently a pain in the butt to get this thing to actually come into fruition, because this sloping front end with a 60-degree design transitioning from the hood to the front bumper here meant that there was not a whole lot of room for headlights. Now, back in the 80s, you would have solved the slope with pop-up headlight. They didn't want pop-up headlights, so they had to spend a huge amount of time and resources developing these projector beam headlights, which later found their way into the Lamborghini Diablo, the facelift Diablo. And some people think that they were stolen. They were not stolen. Lamborghini actually bought these headlights under license from Nissan. Apparently what Lamborghini did is they actually put like a little strip of carbon on the top portion of the headlight to hide the Nissan logo, but apparently if you pull that off, it still is very much a Nissan part number.
To talk about the rear end of this 300ZX, I had to steal the mic away from Tommy because he doesn't think this is cool, but I think this taillight design is very unique. It's super flush, super smooth, and it really integrates kind of nicely into the shape of the back end of the car. So this is one of the most distinctive features on this generation of the 300ZX. This is a sure sign to tell it from any other car out there on the road. Now, our particular 300ZX is missing a little something down here at the bottom of the bumper. There's supposed to be a surround for these little pea shooter pipes that are sticking out of the back. So at the moment, it doesn't have it, and it looks a little bit awkward, but maybe we'll fix that in the next couple days.
So the front is gorgeous, the rear is very, very distinctive. It's this middle bit where things kind of fall apart. And these just look a little bit awkward, primarily because of this roll hoop. Now, of course, today we have very, very sophisticated ways to keep rollover protection and keep you nice and safe in the event that you turn your convertible upside down with pop-up roll hoops and all sorts of weird pyrotechnics. But, you know, back in the day, this was one way you could accomplish at least some level of safety and still have the open air top, but it kind of looks like they put a shopping cart handle on an already beautiful design, and it just kind of soils it a little bit in my opinion. But that is, well, it's up to interpretation.
One of the ways in which cars have supposedly improved massively since the 90s is interior quality, but this 300ZX would have you thinking otherwise because this car is absolutely drenched in soft touch. Not only is there a shocking amount of this really plush suede all around the interior, the entire dash, door cards, everything is soft touch. In front of me here, above the gauge cluster, then this binnacle at the top of the doors, even on this awkward roll bar here behind the seats, everything is soft touch around this interior. So it's actually a pretty nice place to sit. And there's something else that we need to discuss with the convertible. So back in the day, the convertible cost $40,879. which was round about $800 more than the twin turbo at $40,099. So this convertible actually costs more than the model that you would really want to have. And adjusted for inflation today, that makes this convertible round about an $81,000 car in today's money.
So these Nissan keys are super unique and very, very cool. Now, of course, this car does have a remote key fob, which, believe it or not, still works pretty well, but Nissan sold these cars with 3 keys. So not your typical 2, but 3. Now, this is the first key. It's a black design with this little, once again, soft touch material. It says 300ZX, and it's kind of a cool shape. So this is a pretty cool looking key. Now, these also had a valet key, which was red, and then this would start the engine, but it wouldn't give you access to like the lockable glove box or the trunk, so you could kind of keep things nice and hidden. But the coolest key is this right here. This is a titanium key with the word 300ZX embossed there on the side, actually on both sides, and it's just such a cool thing to have. Now, these typically get, well, stolen or kept when cars are traded in, so it's very unusual to actually find these keys equipped on used 300ZXs. Now, you can buy reproduction blanks of these for about $70, but Case was doing a little research and he found that Nissan no longer makes the original titanium blanks, and if you do find one, they can sell for up to $1,000. So pretty cool that we have the original one of this car.
From the interior, this entire cockpit is very driver-centric, so everything is right here at hand, and even the whole dash kind of flows together towards your gauge cluster. But the coolest thing and the most unique thing about this interior are all of these buttons on each side of the wheel. Supposedly, the reason for this button layout is so that you could reach your controls without having to take your hands off the wheel, but for some controls that works more than it does for others. But it's still a really unique layout, and it is pretty close to the wheel, which is nice. So you have your windshield wiper controls here, you have your climate controls, fan speed, temperature, direction, recirc, AC, you have your hazard lights up top, and all of these buttons still to this day feel really nice, and they're very easy to use. On the left side, you have your headlight controls as well as the brightness for your gauge cluster. You have your fog lights, cruise control on and off, and you have your heated mirror switch here. Although even though this is on the left side of the wheel, it shows a right mirror, which is a little odd. But yeah, a really simple button layout and really nice to use.
Now this car did have a manual convertible top, which is like, yes, what a great thing 8 years later, because electronic tops always fail. However, even though this manual top is manual, it still is starting to fail a little bit. Let me show you the issue. Now, to put the top up, there's a set of little buttons over here on the B pillar, and then you push in on this first button, and that is supposed to unlatch this tonneau cover, which it does. So this folds up and then slides out of the way. And then the way this works is there's a little pull that, and then the convertible top will actually fold up like that. And then the rear portion comes up like so. This folds down, and then that kind of snaps into place. Now, I'm not gonna do it because, like I said, these solenoids are a little tired in this car, and we're gonna need to replace them. But it's a very simple convertible top mechanism, which you can do by yourself pretty easily. And it's actually a really good system. I think they did a nice job with this. It's just, you know, almost 30 years later, the little things that activate some of the unlatch mechanisms starting to get a little bit tired. Oh, this is what I mean. Some of these little catches, they're starting to get a little tired. Nope. Oh, you turd. So close. Ah! To get to the trunk on the 300ZX, you got a couple of options. You can stick the key in the hole, or my favorite is actually the electronic trunk popper, which is in the glove box. And once you pop the trunk, it is a surprisingly spacious place. So this car did come, we bought it yesterday, so we haven't really cleaned it up very much, but it does have a couple of spare goodies like shocks and something in there, the car cover. But look at the depth. It's a pretty deep trunk. It's pretty long as well. So this would be a good spot if you wanted to, for example, carry golf clubs. I think you definitely could do so in the back of a 300ZX. Nissan did a really great job with these seats. I think they're pretty supportive, very lounge-like and very comfortable. So kind of a one-piece bucket with these adjustable headrests. And the seat controls are very cool. Power seats over here on the actual side of the left bolster. And then you could fold them forward, and they even gave you integrated leather mat pockets. And this card, that is the tip on how to raise and lower the factory convertible top. Pretty neat.
There's a few odd things even from the passenger seat of this 300ZX, namely how small this glove box is. I mean, this is probably the smallest glove box I've ever seen, although it does still have the nice soft touch suede around it. And the other odd thing is that the vents are built into the door rather than the dash, which means you need this little pass-through with a gasket on it to blow air through the door. Kind of an odd placement. Definitely something that we saw on quite a few 90s cars back in the day, but not something you see a lot today. Tommy, you know what the biggest bummer about this interior is?
What?
Is that aftermarket radio. I don't know why people put aftermarket radios in 90s cars. I mean, I get that you want to be able to pair your phone to it, but that just ruins the whole dash.
Yeah. Whole dash. I'm sure it's pretty gettable though, right? Those have got to be pretty out there.
Yeah, I don't imagine it would be hard to get a factory radio, but still.
Oh darn, our AC works even.
Wow,
so
this is fancy.
Case, would you consider yourself passionate about the 300ZXs?
I think passionate is a strong word, although I've never driven a manual twin turbo, so maybe that would change my mind.
Well, let's talk about this model, right? So it is not the most desirable spec, but let's see how it is. Acceleration, full throttle. Automatic's got a downshift. I mean, it's smooth.
Makes the car advance, but yeah, it's definitely not throw you in the back of the seat kind of thing. I mean, back in the day, 222 horsepower, which is not even a spectacular figure for like an economy car today, and that was a long time ago, so it's probably not making that now.
Well, I think in the early 90s, late 80s, 222 was probably pretty respectable.
Oh yeah, definitely.
You know, like we've got that 87 944 turbo, that's making 217, so even NA, these were making pretty close to like Fox Body GT territories.
Yeah.
Right, which was pretty good. It's just time has progressed so much, and it is a pretty heavy car relative to what you'd consider to be a sports car. Now, what are some of the attributes that made the turbo special? So obviously you had two of them, but there were some other things, right? Yeah,
so you also had some unique styling. You had a different spoiler, a couple different elements on the body. You also had a boost gauge. Obviously it had the turbos.
You also had super Hikis four-wheel steering.
Yeah, which is pretty interesting.
As standard, yeah, you had 245 with tires and mirrors, so that was a more special vehicle. It also made 300 horsepower, so it was a little bit more powerful.
Yeah.
But nowadays, turbos are quite expensive, and when you do find them, they're oftentimes very modified in very poor ways.
Yeah, and that is honestly one of the nicest things about this particular convertible that we found, is that other than that aftermarket head unit, this car appears to be very, very factory. It's very well maintained, and for $8,500, I mean, this is a nice vehicle. It drives well. It's modern enough that you could take it down the highway, you could do a road trip in this. So this is a very inexpensive way to get your hands on a convertible that feels a little bit more special than a lot of the cars that are coming out today, because of some of the unique elements we're pointing out. And yeah, it's just a good all-around vehicle.
It's a good cruiser, exactly. And the cool thing about, especially I think the convertibles, right, is they were very expensive when they were new. They were typically bought by folks that were more affluent, and typically maybe even older. So, for example, this was owned by an older gentleman who only took it out on weekends. It just had timing belts done at the Nissan dealership, which couldn't have been cheap.
Dealer maintained.
Right, so that is a good thing about buying a convertible. And the other thing too is, if you want a twin turbo, you cannot get it in the convertible.
Yeah.
I don't think you can get it in the 2+2 in the States either.
Yeah, no, the 2+2 is only naturally aspirated in the States. And then I want to say that even in this year, for the convertible, I don't think you were able to get the manual transmission.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think in '94 it might have been automatic only, so...
And we talked about 1,700 globally. I think 1,511 came to the States. And of those, the majority were automatics, which kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
Driving this car, this is not so much a sports car. I mean, there's no part of you that really wants to go thrash this around a track or take a canyon car.
No, it's a tourer, and it's a good tourer because it's comfortable. It's a nice interior, and it feels pretty stable going down the road.
There's a lot of cowbell shake, which I think is funny because it's got this enormous roll hoop, but like you hit a bump and the whole thing kind of goes good, but it doesn't rattle like you said earlier.
Yeah.
And its interior is very, very opulent for the 90s.
Yeah, I mean, there's only a couple cheap materials. If you look around, you can find a few scratchy plastics, but for the most part, yeah, it's actually a really nice interior. I mean, obviously, modern car interiors have way more tech, but in terms of materials, this really doesn't feel worse than a lot of the stuff that you can buy new today.
And I think you're right. Put the windows up, it's not super loud in here. It's got a super soft ride, it's got easy steering, it's got enough power to keep up with traffic. It's a good cruiser. $8,500, hard to go wrong.
Yeah, I think this is a pretty good deal for us for $8,500. This is a nice car, and it's just not that much money for how nice it is.
So when my dad came to me the other day and said, oh, I want to get this Z, I took one look at it. I saw the convertible and the automatic and the non-turbo, and I said, no way. If you're going to get a Z, you got to get the twin turbo with the manual transmission and the hardtop. However, over the last hour of doing this shoot, I do have a bigger appreciation for this car. Sure, it's a little bit of an odd duckling, and yes, it's not a very good sports car, but if you just want a really comfortable cruiser that happens to be convertible for under $10,000, this is a very good option. It's going to be pretty reliable because the non-turbo engines are under a lot less stress than the turbo models. The automatic transmissions are not very problematic, and the interior, as Case said, I mean, it's a little 90s, but they put a lot of money into it. It does feel really good, so yes. Not a very good sports car, but as a grand tourer, as something just to cruise around in for a small amount of money in 2022, 300ZX convertible, definitely worth a look. Let us know what you guys think in the comment section below. Huge thank you to Case for his amazing presentation, and we'll see you in the next video.
Here you have a car that's as striking at rest as it is in motion.